Welcome to the Ag Inspo podcast, where we delve into the dynamic world of agriculture, uncovering the stories that inspire, empower, and drive change. Join hosts Rena Striegel and Ron Rabo as they explore the journeys of farmers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who are making a difference as they navigate the critical work of transitioning their operation to the next generation. From navigating family dynamics to developing the next generation of ag leaders, we'll bring you the insights and inspiration you need to thrive in today's ever-evolving agricultural landscape. So whether you're a seasoned industry veteran or just starting out, get ready to be inspired, informed, and empowered as we learn from best practices and a few colossal failures on the Ag Inspo podcast.
Okay, well, Michelle, I'm so excited to have you on the podcast today. You have known Ron. I met you through Ron, and it's been fun to watch your journey because congratulations is in order in that I understand that the Farm Babe is 10 years old today.
Yeah,
Or not
actually it
today,
is.
but this year. This year.
Yeah, well, coming up, it depends when you air this episode because yeah, my 10-year anniversary is Halloween of this year. So
Oh, cool.
whenever you air it, you could air it on the 10-year anniversary if you'd like.
Nice. Well, I was researching that and I was really interested in what month it actually got started because Transition Point is also having its 10-year anniversary and our anniversary is
Oh,
in October.
good. Well,
So
happy
October must
anniversary to you
be,
too.
yeah, so October must be
Absolutely.
the good month for starting businesses in agriculture. That must be the lucky month.
Yeah. There you go. I love it.
Well, I'm
I
going to
don't
be
have any
super excited to
anniversaries
just
on my
talk
end.
about. Oh, I'm sorry, Ron, what was that?
I don't have any anniversaries on my end here today. I'm just here to maybe celebrate Halloween in October. Actually, I'm not here to celebrate Halloween. I'm here to celebrate hunting season in October.
Woo! There you
There we
go.
go.
That's right.
You and about a billion other people, because I've already been, told that my farm visits cannot be on this week, this weekend, because it is a national holiday of the opening of deer season. So it's coming and everybody's gearing up.
That is a
Yep.
real thing, especially in the Midwest. I think that we have, of course, we have a hunting company here. And so we have a lot of our clients that are going to be showing up on the 30th of September. And we stay busy the first couple of weeks in October for mule deer, antelope, and elk. And we have a lot of hunters, incidentally, Michelle, from Wisconsin and
Oh,
from Michigan.
nice.
And all of our Michigan hunters always say that the opening deer season, Michigan has the largest army in the world. So apparently, there's a lot of people with guns that like to go hunting in Michigan. So
Oh, I believe it.
we have an influx, of course, here in Wyoming, but not that many.
Awesome.
Not
Awesome.
the largest army.
Well, I'm going to be really excited to talk about, just your perspective because obviously you are a social media influencer. You
Hmm.
have hit, when I was doing research, I was like, oh my gosh, she has hit every list of who's who, every list of the top of ag that I could find. You were on
Oh.
every list. So
Oh, well, thank you.
congratulations for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
So, what an amazing perspective to kind of be sitting on the cusp of not only a brand new industry because social media influencing, although we know it's an everyday word now, it's a relatively new phenomena. And your
Yep.
perspective of watching ag from that seat. I'm going to be super excited to talk about that today. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about where were you? What made you think, oh, this is what I want to be when I grow up, and what has kept you going for 10 years as this industry has been developing?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I didn't come from I kind of grew up on a farm. So I'll back up. Throughout like middle school and high school and everything, I was in 4-H and my friends were farm kids. So I kind of grew up around it, even though my family weren't farmers. I was still involved in that, doing, riding horses and doing chores every day after school. So I grew up around it, but I ended up moving to Los Angeles for college and I got a visual communications degree from the Fashion Institute and I worked for Gucci on Rodeo Drive. So I was about as far removed from the farm as you could be. So I was living in, downtown LA, downtown Chicago, lived on a beach in Florida and was traveling the world. And so, really wasn't that focused on agriculture in my 20s. And when I was bartending down in Pensacola Beach, I met a farm boy. And sometimes when you hit on your bartender, it actually works. And so he and I dated for almost 8 years. And so I moved to the farm in Iowa and I became a farmer with him. And that was back in like 2013, 2014. And my tagline is now rodeo to the rodeo because I worked for Gucci on rodeo and then became a farmer. So this whole like idea, I started off as kind of just a personal blog, 10 years ago, just to talk about what we were doing on the farm. So we were, growing thousands of acres and, have had feedlots and sometimes we would use like hormones or antibiotics if we needed to, stuff like that. And so coming from the city background, I thought all of these things were really bad. And I was against GMOs and all of this stuff. And then when I dated a farmer that I was actually doing all these things and I learned the truth direct from the farmers, I thought, wow, there is a lot of misinformation out there. And I think a lot of people just don't understand where their food comes from because they're not getting their information from farmers. They're getting their information from Netflix or celebrities or people who have never grown an acre of a crop a day in their life. So I decided to start it off as a personal blog. I said, here's what we're doing every day. And from there, it grew into a full-fledged business. So I never really set out to be a social media influencer. Like I've been doing this 10 years. That was kind of before social media influencing was really even a career. But throughout growing that social media following, I've become kind of that trusted voice within agriculture and for people to learn the truth about where their food comes from. So I work to give science and farmers a bigger voice and be a voice for that 1%, which is the farmer and the rancher.
Yeah. There are so many misconceptions, right? Like it's almost like the little boy with the Dutch wall, right? Like you get your finger in this one and one's going to pop up over there.
Yeah.
How do you determine how to position in all of that where there is so much misinformation and there's just as many influencers giving contradictory information? How do you determine where to position yourself in all of that?
Yeah. So a lot of it is actually inspired from social media stuff that pops up on my news feed or people in the comment section, or somebody will send me a direct message and say, oh my God, I found this. Or I'm also a keynote speaker. So I'm always busy traveling at different events. And so a lot of times somebody in the audience will speak to me afterwards and say, hey, can you help us fight this ballot initiative that's going against agriculture? And so I get a lot of inspiration from people around me and a lot of just what's trending. So it's like I still have. So I was on the farm and then Doug and I broke up right around the time of the pandemic, and I moved back to Florida. So now I'm on my own again, back in Florida, and I travel a lot. And throughout my travels, I do still spend some time in urban areas. So it's like I'm bridging the gap between farmers and consumers, and we can't do that if we just sit in our little small town bubbles, right? So I try to be around all different types of people. And through that, it's just kind of meeting those social circles and those connections of, well, I follow a gluten-free diet and I don't eat seed oils. And like seed oils are the new boogeyman. There's always something that's like the new and trendy thing
Yeah.
that we have to avoid and fear sells. And so it's like, well, what is the next big thing that the media is capitalizing on to sell an ideology or a product or whatever that is? So it's always like, are seed oils really that bad? I don't know. Let's dive in. And rather than just doing a Google search that some people do and take the first boogeyman fear mongering headline at face value, or hear it from somebody that's not qualified to speak on it, I go straight to the source. So for example, somebody will say, oh, these seed oils, they're just bleached with all of these chemicals. And so what do I go? What do? I go directly to the seed oil company and say, hey, can we talk about this? Are you open to giving me a tour? And through that, I'll gain valuable information and partnerships where I can say, hey, here's how it's actually done. Another myth busted. And so it's been a lot of fun to say, like, we need to get our information direct from the source. There's too many people telling our stories that are not qualified to tell our stories. It's like we go to our dentist for our teeth and our mechanic for our car. Why aren't we going to the farmer or the food manufacturer about farming and food manufacturing? It's like, it doesn't make any sense. It's like all of a sudden people they trust farmers, but they don't trust you know what I mean? It's like, but we're real people. Farmers do a great job. You love farmers, but you don't trust big ag, but the same people you love are the same people behind it. And it just doesn't make sense. So we have to humanize and tell that story based on the fact that we're all human and we're all here because we care and we all want a better future. Let's connect on shared values.
Yeah. Yeah. How do you put that out? And I've been on social media this much, right? Social media to me is very time consuming. It's very hard. I don't like cameras in my face, which is so funny why we do a video podcast now. But, you know, how do you withstand then the kickback you get from telling the truth? Because I'm sure you've got the trolls just like everybody else. How does that inspire you? Does that challenge you? Do you ignore it? Like how does that work in your world?
It does inspire and challenge, and I'm always up for a challenge. And but ultimately that's the beauty of building a following too, is that when you have the following, a lot of times your followers will come to your defense in the comments before you even get a chance to read the comments, right? So I barely even read the comments anymore. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter who you are, how amazing you are, there's always going to be some type of hater, right? Like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But that's such a small percentage of it. I think there's a lot, like there's a lot of people that are scared of that, but they really shouldn't be, because that's such a small part of it. I'd say maybe 1% of people. But then even with that, if you do, then you just like change the subject. You know, if I do a post that debunks a myth, that, you know, like we'll use the seed oils again as an example. You know, I'm like, well, here's some peer reviewed evidence and some studies and some, you know, direct from the source of people that produce seed oils, and here are the facts. So you're just going to have that one person that's like, you know, some conspiracy theorist and or whatever, that over 90% of people are in the movable middle. But for the very small percentage of people that you're not going to change your mind, like a lot of times through the comments, they'll already look like an idiot because they'll have like 20 people that are like providing evidence of the thing, you know, just saying like, here's the evidence, like you're just wrong, right? But that's another thing I talk about through my keynote speaking and everything, is the ability to have a conversation where you're not coming off as you know, like arrogant, or you're not coming off rude or whatever, where you're like, you just want to help people, not fear their food. um so yeah, I mean, I think that answered your question.
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah. It's
kind I know I kind of went off on a tangent there, but it's
Well, I
yeah.
think it's easy to have an opinion about something that doesn't directly affect you. And it's easy to
Mm-hmm.
have an opinion about something that you already have a tendency to kind of indirectly oppose,
Yeah.
because you want to make sure that whatever you're putting out there shares your message that you believe, regardless of whether that message is true or not. And
Yeah.
so I know that when I speak to audiences, and you and I have actually done speeches together, and it's been really fun. That a lot of times those of us who are farmers don't do a very good job. Farmers and ranchers, all of us in agriculture, don't do a very good job of promoting who we are and what our value is to the general public. Like we're really good at doing that to the people that we directly work with. So if you go
Mm-hmm.
to a stock growers convention, you're going to be speaking to all the stock growers, but
Right.
they all believe the same thing. So what I've been just really grateful for with your presence in that is that you're taking that to the general public who really needs to hear our message. So I would like you to share, if you would be willing, about it. I think it was kind of maybe one of the first big videos that you did when Burger King came out with this big ad about how cows are horrible for the environment, and they did this crazy, corny, ridiculous commercial that a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people bought into. And you, living in Iowa at the time, said to yourself, "Hold on a second, this doesn't make any sense." Uh, I am a voice. I'm going to exercise that voice, and I think that voice can make a difference. And
Yep.
it did make a difference. And you were one person at the time, and you did make a difference. Can you kind of walk our audience through that whole thing that happened with Burger King and how it started and then what the end result was.
Yeah, the Burger King thing. Yeah, I love that story. And I was going to say too, to back up from the previous point about changing the subject. I knew I kind of lost my train of thought for a second, but um, so when you do get the haters, so to speak, right? Like you can just change the subject. So like if I do something on seed oils that gets the crowd all riled up or something, then I'll change the subject into a video of goats and sweaters because
You got to.
everybody loves. I am convinced that goat videos, like baby goats, are the only thing on the internet that doesn't offend anybody. So you've just got to like switch it up. But yeah, to your point of turning negatives into positives, it's like Burger King came out with this horrible commercial talking about how livestock were destroying the planet and that they were going to feed lemongrass to cattle to offset methane emissions. But the commercial was produced in such a horrible way. Like it was little kids singing a song in gas masks with like the polar ice caps melting. I mean, it was terrible.
It was
And
ridiculous.
it was so bad. And so they're
Yeah.
just talking about how, like, well, we're going to feed lemongrass to cattle because if you feed lemongrass, it could reduce methane emissions by up to a third. And it's like, okay, well, that commercial that Burger King put out, it had 5 million views on Twitter overnight. But also, what happened overnight was hashtag boycott Burger King also was trending. So Burger King got a ton of backlash. So there was one study that they did from Mexico that showed if you fed lemongrass to cattle, yes, you could potentially reduce methane. However, they were trying to replicate those studies in the US and the EU, and those results were inconclusive and not yet published. So they already jumped the gun. So some of the backlash came directly from UC Davis and some of the other experts saying, we actually don't know that yet. And if they're trying to put out an environmental message, like, where are we going to get all this lemongrass? Are you going to ship lemongrass in from Thailand? Like the last I heard, the lemongrass yields of Wyoming weren't that great, right? Right, Ron? So it's like,
Yeah.
what are we supposed to do here, And so anyway, things were going viral, and I was doing some posts that were very politely putting Burger King on blast that were going viral on my own. And I thought, what if we could just have a conversation? So I just did a random Google search of like, who is the global chief marketing officer of Burger King? And I just sent him a tweet politely explaining why we found the ad so offensive and come on out to the farm. And Burger King actually took me up on it. So I had a Zoom call
Cool.
and, their C-level executives, they came out to the farm with a camera crew. And then I put together a 2-day tour. So we went to a methane digester, went to some feedlots. I took them to my farm. I had Iowa State involved, Iowa Farm Bureau, some ruminant nutritionists, really put together a very informative hands-on 2-day tour for them. Because my message to them was, look, reducing methane and improving sustainability and helping the planet is a noble cause. It's something that we all really care about. But the good news is that farmers are doing a really great job of that already. Like, come on out. I'd love to show you. And they did. So that was incredible. They ended up retracting that original ad and they did a new commercial that was filmed on my farm as well as in Northeast Iowa with a bunch of other farmers. So it was really amazing.
Wow. How
I
brave of
think it
that
just
marketing
goes to,
officer, like to step into that
Yeah.
and say, okay, I'm open to learning. I
Yeah,
think
he
that's
did.
wonderful. That says a lot about that person.
Yeah, he was great. To this day we're friends. I mean, it's wonderful. He was very receptive, and I really, hats off to him. Hats off to Burger King for listening, and then from there they actually did more pro farmer campaigns. It was really amazing. They've really kind of switched up their messaging. And I think that's the big thing that we're missing in food and food marketing is they're so busy focusing on the next best trend, the next best label, or, like anti-seed oils or whatever, but they're forgetting about there's real people behind their products. Like, why aren't we telling the farmer's story? Because people love to feel connected. They want to know where their food comes from. We're kind of missing the mark on that when it comes to like food marketing. I think that's why there's a lot of distrust in the food supply because there's no people. They're not sharing what they do. They're just like, here's this processed food, eat it. You're going to eat it. You're going to like it. But they're not. And here's a label to make you feel better about it. But like, do we feel better about it? You know?
well, I think it also shows that we, as individuals, that we can make a difference, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
we can have a voice, and what drives me crazy a lot of times is that we have these conversations about, well, uh, people better not talk with their mouths full when they talk about how, all the bad things that farmers are doing or ranchers are doing or whatever. But we're not really getting out there to the general public. But if we would do that, I think we would find, actually, those of us in agriculture, we would find that people are receptive to that, because I
Oh
think they
yeah.
really do want to know. But
Yeah.
they're just, like you said, it's all fear mongering, right? So that's what they're going to adhere to. But I think it's just a powerful example of what happens with just one voice and how that one voice can really make a difference.
Yeah, in my upcoming new keynote I'm doing, it's called The Power of Influence, and I'm talking about how Elon Musk has like 190 million social media followers, like if he, on Twitter alone, right? If he says something, the entire stock market moves. But if you take even one third of farmers, say, let's just round up to 650,000 farms, right? Like that's like about a third ish. And you give them each 1,000 followers, which is a very reasonable number to achieve, 1,000 followers. Now all of a sudden we've got quadruple the power of Elon Musk when we come together as collaborative voices. So I think sometimes farmers really underestimate themselves. I think, oh, I'm just a farmer. Like, I don't know. They just want to farm. They're humble. They just, they don't want to like put themselves out there, but you need to. And my whole goal is to help farmers feel empowered to say, I can do this. I can have a voice here, and to realize that they're very impactful.
Yeah. I think that's great messaging, but I'd love to know a little bit about building a business like yours because, anybody that follows you, you're traveling all the time. You are representing different industries. You're keynoting, you're on farms, you're a lot of places in really short periods of time. How did you go from blogger to what you are today? Tell us about the process of building your business.
Yeah, great question. Thanks. Well, it helps that I don't have children, so I can be gone on the road as much as I am. But yeah, I travel so much to the point where I actually think I'm about to buy a camper van today. So there's something new and exciting because yeah, you're always like packing and unpacking and traveling and rental cars and just blah 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 blah. And I was like, I think I'm just gonna get a dang van. So that's something new and exciting. But how I built it from a business was, it started off as a side hustle, just as a personal blog. And as I became more interested to learn where our food comes from, I was sharing TED Talks and I was watching TED Talks and different people that inspired me. And I came across Rob Syke in Canada, and I shared. Do y'all know Rob Syke?
I've
Ron, do
never
you know
met
Rob?
him. Mm-mm, I've
Oh,
never met
he's
him.
he's he's wonderful. Well, he does this TED Talk called Pushing Boundaries in Agriculture, and he's written a ton of books, and he's just like a super inspirational person. So he was one of my biggest inspirations. But I was sharing his content, and I was following other farm bloggers online, and I was sharing their content, and I was connecting and learning from them. And I was just talking to them, and I was like, wow, I really love your blog. I'm learning so much. I'm thinking about doing that, but I don't know. I'm kind of scared of the haters. What do you do? Everybody always asks that. And they're like, just do it. It's such a small percent. It's so great. It's like the best thing you can do. So through that, I started my page. And about a year into it, I had, when that first year, I had a bunch of posts go really viral. And finally Rob Sykes' company reached out to me, and they said, hey, thank you so much for sharing Rob's TED Talk and for promoting our business and what he's doing. Do you want to come speak at our conference? And I said, well, I've never done that before, but sure. And they said, well, if you've never done it before, we'll have you do a breakout session. We'll partner you with a member of our staff, and you guys can do a breakout together. And I thought, okay. So her and I worked on it together. Her and I are still great friends to this day,
Nice.
almost 10 years ago, which is awesome. But through that, I had some of my biggest idols in my audience. My boyfriend at the time was in the audience. And so I had, it was standing room only. There was a ton of people. And afterwards, we just got an insane amount of positive reinforcement. Basically, people were like, wow, Michelle, you really knocked it out of the park. Like, I thought you'd be a great speaker, but you're a really great speaker. And I was like, cool, I guess I am. And so and so that's kind of how it all started. So it just started off as that one speaking engagement, and it just kept going, and it just word of mouth referrals, and it just kept growing totally organically from there, kept going. And through that, people just started saying, come to my farm, come here, do this, see that. And then over time, you realize how to turn that into a business as a social media influencer. I have about 400,000 followers, but through that, I reach about 5 million people per month on social media. Well, and brands want to tap into that following. They want to get their businesses, their brands, their ideas in front of farmers or just in front of people in general. And so through that, then it's an extension of brand advertising and marketing. So instead of doing yellow page ads and billboards and commercials, now everything's going digital. So now you say, hey, I could put this ad in a newspaper that could be seen by 100 people, who reads the paper anymore? Or I could partner with a social media influencer and get that message in front of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions with the click of a button. So everything's just going digital. So I think that's the thing, is like, people think, oh, what's a social media influencer? You get paid by Instagram to look cute. And it's like, no, like it's a business, and it's an extension of brand advertising, education, marketing, awareness, sales, marketing, all of those things. So it's a valuable business tool.
Yeah.
So through that, then, people just, a lot of the business just has come to me word of mouth. Hey, we think you're a great writer. Will you write for our magazine? Hey, we think you're great. Can we sponsor your podcast? And so from there, it's just, and now I'm doing events, and the event was just something that popped in my mind as the farm cruise. So I'm like,
yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's on my list.
Yeah. So that's really how it all started. Was it just grew from there, and I just discovered a niche and a way to advocate. So any way that I can help the industry, whether it's podcasting, writing, speaking, events, whatever, I'm here for it. So yeah.
So is it still just you, or do you now have a team where people are editing and filming and photography and driving you maybe? Like, tell me about your team.
Oh my God, I would love a driver. I would love a driver, but it is a whole team. Absolutely. Yes. I have a team behind the scenes that help with posting, editing, writing, with comments, with all sorts of stuff, with managing contracts. And Melinda is my right hand agency. She's wonderful, but she does a lot of different ideas, updating contracts and communications with people through emails, and just a lot of the admin stuff on the back end. The way I always looked at it is, as the business has continued to grow, I mean, it's only normal when any business grows to get burnt out on certain tasks. And so as that grows, you just kind of say, hey, I'm going to start to delegate. Like, and at the end of the day, like, the best analogy that we've come up with is like, I'm like the artist, where you're good on stage. I'm good at talking. I'm not good at teching. So I just, as like the artist, you just want to show up and play the guitar. So that's my analogy of like, I just want to show up and play the guitar. I need a tour manager. I need all these people to do all this stuff on the back end so that I can just focus on doing what I do. And so that's really kind of how it's grown. So I'm with my camper van that I think I'm going to buy today. I am thinking, this is cool. I don't really like driving, but it's also like saves you time sometimes. It's like driving to the airport, and then you sit there for 2 hours, and then you fly, and then you have a layover, and then you're delayed, and then you have another one, and then you're there, and then they lost your luggage, and then you're waiting in line for the rental car, and then you don't, and then you're getting used to the rental car, and it's all these learning curves. It's just like that. And it's the packing and unpacking. So I thought, you know what? I wish I could, if I can find somebody, what, I need to like marry a videographer that just wants to take the show on the road with me.
Well, I have to tell you, in terms of camper vans, I have said that in the last year, I have told everybody that I'm buying a camper van. So
yeah,
I don't think that's crazy. In fact, I'm like, hey, Michelle and I, like, we've got the same idea about time efficiency. And when you're somewhere really cool, why not just stay a couple extra days and work from there, which you can do if you have a camper van.
Exactly. It's my office, it's my home. And I already have my place in Florida, right? So it's not like I'm giving up what I currently have. But when I think about getting a second home, it's like, oh, well, here's my second home that I can take anywhere. And so also, as a social media influencer, I have another call today, fingers crossed, that I'm trying to get like a partner sponsor where we can do some type of van wrap or something to promote us together as collaborators, where I can help tell the story of farmers. And where it's like I can go to all these different farms and their network and post about them. So whenever I'm in somebody's area, I always get a ton of messages and comments. Oh my God, you're right in my neighborhood. Please come to my farm. And they all want me to do that. So now I can say, hey, maybe through this network, I can do that through my partner sponsor. So we'll see. Fingers crossed. I can't say too much because it's not a done deal, but I think it's a great idea and I hope they love it. So
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Well, that's a really cool idea and a way to create efficiency in your business. So we are crossing our fingers, toes, all of it for you.
thank you. I appreciate it.
so I'm wondering, you and I have traveled a little bit together.
Yep.
We've done some events together and whatnot. And I have the farm, right? So I'm off doing that, and then I come back and work on the farm, and then I go do another gig. You are on the road all the time,
Hmm.
and you are constantly doing the social media thing, which, quite frankly, for me, like filming myself, like when you and I travel, you're like always filming yourself and doing all these kinds of things. For me, I'm like, wow, that's exhausting if I was filming myself. All right, but I just find it it's inspiring. So how do you continue to keep yourself motivated and enthusiastic about what you're doing? Because for me, I think my motivation a lot of times is the fact that I don't have to give keynotes, for an example, um, 5 or 6 days a week, year
Right.
round. Like I get a hopscotch back and forth, which is great for my personality. But you're in the trenches all the time. So how do you
Hmm.
stay motivated? Like what's your driver? What drives you?
Oh, wow. That's such a great question. There's so much. Well, part of it is like it's my job, right? So if I want to stay relevant in my industry, I have to be posting myself and my stories and whatever, but also it's a way to separate myself. So I think when you're a keynote speaker, as it's there's a lot of us out there. And so how do you make yourself relevant and how do you make yourself stand out from the crowd? And I think that's part of my niche and part of my shtick is like, hey, you're getting a farmer, you're getting a speaker. That's also an influencer. And so from there, it's kind of like I'm also utilizing that platform to do these posts to promote those events. So it's not just, hey, I'm going to show up and speak. I'm going to show up and speak and I'm going to talk about your event and I'm going to get people hyped up. Hey, I'm here. And that also leads to more opportunities. So as somebody who, I don't mind doing a ton of keynotes. I think a lot of it heads back to, you are a great example of that because you're a farmer and a husband and a father first, right? And that, oof, sorry, there's a bee around me. Um, but since I don't have those things, I'm kind of like, well, I guess I'll just go on another trip, and I've never wanted kids. Like I'm not like I like kids. Your kids are fantastic. Like Ron, you have the kid jackpot.
Yeah,
But
his
Oh,
kids are
for
amazing.
thanks.
his kids are amazing. Like, oh my God. We could do a whole podcast episode just about how awesome his kids are. and that's and
They
that's amazing.
have a good mom.
Yeah, yeah. Julie's amazing. Yeah, but it's one of those things where it's like everybody's decisions in life has its advantages and disadvantages. But I think I'm so passionate about it. I think part of my driving force is because I did have more of a big city background. And so when you kind of come at it with a different perspective, like I think sometimes farmers take it for granted because it's all they know and it's all they've ever done. But for somebody from the outside looking in, it's pretty incredible. And so I think I see it from a different perspective. But I guess from the perspective of other people listening, it's sometimes just take a step back and try to think about like what you do and why and what are the greatest parts of your job and tell that story because you might see it every day, but the average person doesn't. And so that's the content that you put out there that you're said, like I'll give you a great example. I was in South Africa last year and I went to this beautiful farm tour. This guy has 5,000 acre of orchards and he grows all these different fruits and whatever. Well, they also have this little part of the family land that's like a private hunting safari and it's just for friends and family. It's not something that they publicly announce, but it's something that they'll do for people and then they'll do like events or whatever, like on farm dinners. So his son took us in this like safari buggy all the way up to the top of this mountain. And we had this lookout point that looked over the whole farm. I mean, it was
Wow.
stunning. And as you're up there, he goes, "Hey, look, it's a giraffe." And I looked down and I'm like, "Holy, that's a giraffe." And you're just like, holy shit, like, where am I? And you go down and he's got this like, he breeds animals for hunting safaris. And so he's got like it's like a farmer, right? Where you're breeding livestock, but you're breeding them for safaris. And so he's got like lions and like hyenas and warthogs and all this crazy stuff. And I'm just like mind blown at how amazing this is. And so I go over and I look at him with like happy tears in my eyes and I give him the biggest hug and I go, Jimmy, this is like the greatest day of my life. And he looks at me and he's all puzzled and he goes, I guess it is pretty cool, isn't it? It's like, what? Like, you're sitting there on the mountains of like on an African safari looking at like zebras and giraffes and all this crazy stuff. And you're like, this is the coolest experience ever. It's what dreams are made of. Like, everybody is like, would dream to have a day like that. But the farmer's response is, huh, I guess it is pretty cool, isn't it? And that same train of thought can be applied to any type of farm where people have no idea what a harvest looks like. They have no idea what a combine is. They don't know how livestock are raised. They've never seen the birth of a calf. How cool is that? Share it, you know? So that should be everybody's driving force, is to find the beauty of what others see. Like, a lot of times we don't see the beauty in ourselves that other people around us are like, you are so beautiful. I wish you could see what I see in all different facets of your life, right? Not just physical beauty, but emotional intelligence, career, whatever that is. There's so much beauty around us that sometimes we just take for granted.
Yeah. When you know, talking about that in terms of a farmer putting things out there, you know, what is the balance? Because, you know, there's a lot of people out there that make, you know, the great videos where you get to see the equipment running and, you know, there's not a lot of personality to it, right? It's just really cool equipment doing what really cool equipment does. How do you transition the curiosity that people have about those big pieces of equipment into action, right? Like if you're not a person that really wants to get out front of the camera, but you love making videos of the pretty sunsets and the harvests and the tractors getting stuck or whatever it might be. How do you transition from that to really having a message that can move or shape people's opinions of farming?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, a lot of it could be collaborations too. So, maybe you don't like to be in front of the camera, but you have somebody who does, or who is. Some of the greatest people to follow, in my opinion, are great to follow because you feel like you know them. So yes, you can do these great video, equipment videos, but what were to happen if you were to bring your dog or your kids or your spouse or that goofy grandma or somebody that like makes people laugh? Because at the end of the day, everybody loves to laugh. They love to feel something. So if you can help people laugh, cry, or feel some type of emotion, that's what makes a good movie. The hero versus the villain, that makes a good story. So consider what you like to think about and incorporate that. And that should really help take your content to the next level. Captions help too. So maybe the video is just the equipment, but through the equipment, through the caption, you can say, here is a video of my John Deere combine, which when we started farming in the 80s was $50,000 or whatever. And
Yeah.
now this is $900,000. And so you can kind of create a message that improves policy and raises awareness and education for the general public through the caption.
Yeah, I feel like the sassy grandma is coming into her time right now. Like
Oh,
you
absolutely.
we got some sassy farm grandmas that are laying down some truth out there and they are awesome.
They're awesome. They're so funny. Do you follow Gatlin Didier and Granny and
Yeah.
Date Park?
Yeah.
Oh, Granny is the greatest.
Oh
Yes.
yeah, she is a sassy one. Love her. There's some other ones out there
Yes.
that I'm just like, oh, it's amazing to see like the portrayal of like a strong, opinionated woman that can also be incredibly endearing and you just want to hear what her next little mic drop is gonna be. So
A
yeah, I'm
hundred
really
percent.
enjoying that.
Yeah, a
Really
hundred
enjoying
percent. Especially because social media is so much more prominent in the next generation. Like, I'm a millennial, but if you go from like millennial into Gen Z or whatever, and but I think everybody loves their grandparents. Like, it's like your best memories. I mean, for most people anyway, it's like you think about, oh, my grandma. Time with the grandparents, and so the ability to connect those generations through social is a really great way to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed also too that there just seems to be a tremendous amount of people emerging on the scene that have kind of created the hobby farm life, where they've got the cute goats and the cute mini cows and their farm is full of cuteness.
Yes.
How has that impacted people's perception of farms? Like, do people feel like the hobby farmers are just like got massive collections of very diverse pets? Or are
Yeah,
they
right.
are they or is that a perception of what farming now is? Like, how has that shifted what people are thinking?
Yeah, well, I think it's been a great thing to get people more curious and excited about our way of life. And I think COVID has also shifted a lot of people's mindsets where all of a sudden we're realizing, wow, we're all working from home. What am I doing here? Let's go somewhere else. And with the rise of the barn dominium type trend and the modern farmhouse type decor, and then you've got the different TV shows like Yellowstone or Fixer Upper, like the Magnolia, the Chip and Joanna Gaines of the world. I think there's such a rise in interest in our way of life that hats off to the hobby farmers for showing what life is like, because ultimately we need all different types of farmers, right? We need small, big, all different labels, all different sizes. But ultimately, maybe that'll help people realize that it's not as romantic as it looks. Like even I was guilty of that. When I moved from the big city to the farm, my friends were like, "Oh my God, you're going to be like Reed Drummond. You're going to be like the pioneer woman." And I was like, "I know I'm going to have a garden and I'm going to live off the grid. I'm going to make my own homemade sourdough from scratch, like all the goofy things that we see on social media." And then it's like, yeah, farming is not wicker baskets and sundresses, okay? Like, and so here I am, and I had this beautiful garden, and I quickly learned like gardening sucks. So it's
It's only
like,
beautiful for a minute, right? Before
yeah,
it's now like a
exactly.
full-on battle.
Yeah, and like I genuinely love to eat vegetables. I love a good salad. Kale is like my favorite vegetable. Don't tell anybody I said that. But when you when you love kale so much that you want to grow so much of it and then it gets infested with worms, I didn't eat kale for a really long time. And so it's like one of those things that's like, okay, we just have to appreciate where our food comes from and appreciate farms. But to that effect too of the smaller scale farm that might be in more of your community farmers markets, I mean, that's all great too, because I think small scale farmers markets direct in your community are a wonderful way to bring people together and unite them on something that we all care about, which is food.
Yeah, yeah. So, you're having an evolution right now in your business. So this is going to transition me into farm crews. So
Farm cruise.
yeah. Okay, tell me about this idea. Tell me what your goal is. Tell me all about it.
Oh, I'm so stoked for the farm cruise. Yeah. So farmcruise.com is the website. But my idea was to do something the industry's never seen before. So this is the world's first floating farm conference. So we're in the farming community, a lot of us are going to conferences in the wintertime, but we can only go to like Nebraska so much, right? So I wanted to do something in the Bahamas. So now instead of doing a farm event in the cold. Now we're bringing it to a Caribbean cruise ship. So my business partner is Jason, and he throws the event called the Groove Cruise, which if anybody's heard of the Groove Cruise, it's the world's largest floating dance music festival. And he's been doing it over 20 years, throwing professional events and concerts and stuff on cruise ships to the point where he charters entire cruises. Like he's amazing. He had like Tiesto and John Summit and stuff as his headliners this year. So anything like kind of that music festival
Yeah.
type energy. And I want to bring that sense of community and energy to the farming community and do something that's never been done before. So through the farm cruise, we're going to have some farm tours on the islands. I've got some of the biggest names on social media influencers that are going to be there. So we've got Randy the farmer, also known as Field Rose, who's going to be doing his first concert. We've got Farm Fit Mama doing morning workouts. We've got some of the big names doing meet and greets and speakers and breakout sessions and all of these great things. And let's see, we've got some like scavenger hunts, karaoke night. I mean, all the fun things that you would get on a cruise, but catered to the farming community. So we've got the swimming with pigs excursion and all of that. And so it's going to be a ton of fun. And I want it to be like, yes, we're going to have some speakers and stuff, but I really want it to be more about the fun and the experience and the community building than it is about like the conference part of it, because we all go to so many conferences and they're wonderful. They're great. I'm not putting them down in any way, but I'm also going like, let's do something that's more about the party, that's more about the energy, because at the end of the day, business is done on the golf course, right? It's done at the bar. And so it's kind of like one of these things like, hey, now we can network because we're in line at the zip line. Like, how fun is that? And so, just hanging out by the pool and getting to know farmers. And so the people I have signed up are from all walks of life. I've got a bunch of really large scale grain farmers coming from Canada. I've got some smaller scale hobby farmers. I've got, sweet potato to cotton to peanuts to corn and beans to all sorts of cool stuff. So it's going to be quite a mix of a way that we can all get together and learn about agriculture from each other.
That's awesome. And what are the dates? And is
It's
it too late to go? Can people still
It's
sign up?
not too late to go. You can still sign up, and the dates are February 24th through the 28th. And you can book at farmcruise.com. If you would like to, I could also give a discount code specifically for your listeners. So
Oh, well,
if you would like,
it's going to
yeah.
be
So,
in the comments. So people have to
yeah.
scroll down and get
So,
it.
yes. So, what code would you like me to use for your followers, for
Oh,
for anybody that listens to you?
we better do inspo for sure.
Inspo? Okay.
Inspo.
So use code INSPO to save $50 off. So
There
that
you
is
go.
$50 off per person. And that is a code exclusively for you to share with your listeners. And through their Inspo, come on, join us. So
I love
yeah,
it. Thank you for that. That's really
you're
fun.
welcome.
That's one thing that everybody says to me when I do events. They're like, seriously, Des Moines in December? Are you kidding? Could you not do something like a little better than that? So maybe I need to
Yeah.
take a little inspo from you and get the drip project to the
Yeah.
Bahamas or somewhere really cool like that.
Well, I don't know how many people attend, but we could talk about maybe just merging. We do so Rob Syke is coming. Remember earlier I was talking about Rob Syke with AgVisor Pro. He was supposed to do a meeting with his Power Farm group in Saskatchewan, and then he said, like, why are we doing this in Saskatchewan when we could do this in the Bahamas? So they're actually merging their whole conference with ours, which was great
Oh, I
because that
love it.
sold. Yes, I think that sold like 20 some rooms that they just said, "Hey, we're just going to do this way instead of that location." So, yeah,
Oh,
so I mean, we're open to different suggestions and partnerships like that as well, where we can block off maybe a couple hours for you and see what we can do for you. But yeah, you never
well,
know.
it's a great idea for people that are like planning your peer groups, your winter peer group meetings, like your executive retreats, all of that. This would be a great place to maybe shake it up and let let you and your team create the fun portion of those meetings while they focus on business too. So I think that's an
Yep.
awesome idea.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we're kind of limited on conference room hours, but we do try our best to accommodate. We've got a couple of sponsors on board already, which is cool. And they're just kind of sponsoring some of the fun stuff like the swag or like beach towels or happy hour karaoke, stuff like that.
Love it.
So
Love
we're
it.
trying to make it all about the fun.
Yeah, what is your hope for participation? How many farmers are you hoping to bring together this first year?
Well, so I'm on the hook for like 200 people, but we're already about 90% sold out. So we're probably going to have to go back to Royal Caribbean and get another room block. So all great things. So we
Good.
are we are doing very well considering it's our first year, and so we're pretty excited. But ultimately, my dream and my goal is to someday include that music festival type element. So maybe someday we'll be chartering an entire cruise ship with Luke Bryan or somebody as the headliner. So that's kind of my dream, and my goal is to bring that kind of music festival energy to the farming community. But we have to crawl before we can walk. But
I
that's
love it.
and we're kind of just doing this on our own with like our own small budget, and but we're hoping to grow it from there. So it's all
Oh, you
very
will.
exciting things.
Yeah,
Yeah, we
no
will.
doubt about it. You
Yeah.
will. You
Yeah.
will. So what else? I mean, that's a really exciting 25 new thing. What else is on the horizon for your business? What do you hope either your business or just the world of influencing in and of itself? What do you hope it's moving into?
I hope that it's moving into growth, to more understanding of the value that influencers bring. And instead of, I mean, I think a lot of people, even that are influencers, are like, I don't like to be called an influencer. And it's like, yeah, but you should. Like, that's just what it is, and there's nothing wrong with that. And it's great. It's a wonderful occupation, and I love inspiring young people. I think a lot of people that are majoring in like an ag communications, or maybe they're an FFA or 4-H trying to find their way. The younger next generation are really great at social media. And so considering for them to say, hey, this is a viable business, this is a potential to be a 6 or 7 figure brand, that's pretty amazing. And so it all goes back to the power of your voice. And the more farmers and the more people we have telling their story on social media, the stronger we are overall. So one of the things that I'm doing in my new keynote is talking about policy and people that are voting for certain pieces of legislator that legis you know what I'm trying to say.
Legislation.
Yes. Like legislature, unique New York. So anyway, yeah, different pieces of legislation out there that could really negatively impact our industry. You look at something like a Prop 12 that costed the pork industry $18 billion. And you have to wonder, the reason why that passed is because California has a lot of celebrities that are out there preaching veganism and all of these things. But we can counteract that. We can have just as much power, if not more, if we collectively tell our stories. So we have to consider that it's not just about telling your story because it's the cool and the right thing to do, but it can save our industry billions of dollars and ultimately keep farmers on their land. And that is a hill I will die on.
Yeah. When you talk about career, I want to like, because this is always the big myth buster, right? Like people can see you in today, where you're at today, all the cool things you're doing, camper vans, keynotes, cruises, and be like, I want to do that. But then with everything, right? It isn't you become that on day one. At least most of
No.
us don't. So how talk about that 10-year journey of going from however many followers to the followers you have. Where did you really feel like after day-to-day diligence over and over and over, you finally hit that critical mass that kind of took you over the top? How long did it take you to do that?
Yeah, well, I had a post go really viral within like the first month. I only had about 100 followers, and I did a post that talked about how much Roundup we were spraying on our GMO crops. Like I just put it out there, you know, and it was talking about how, hey, like it's only 22 ounces on an area of land the size of a football field, you know, and so kind of putting that out there, like, you know, like 1 or 2 pop cans worth, like we're really not, we're only spraying like 1 or 2 days a year. So I think kind of debunking that myth where people just assume, oh, these GMOs are just drenched in these toxic chemicals. And it's like, well, that's not true. So I only had 100 followers, and that post went so viral, it reached 18 million. And so that's what really put me on the map right off the bat. And then from there, I just developed this following. And then there were other Facebook page admins out there that were sharing my content. I noticed that they were sharing a lot of my posts. And so I started sharing their posts. And so because we built this community, we ended up doing a Facebook group together. And I want to encourage people, if you're looking to build a following, it's all about community and collaboration. Some of the
Love it.
most successful people in business will say that the people at the top are collaborating and the people at the bottom are competing. And I think that's one of the biggest things that we should consider with business is that nobody's a competitor. It's all about, especially in the social media realm, of promoting and sharing each other, collaborating so that their followers are hearing from you and your followers are hearing from them. And it's an exchange of ideas that all of a sudden, hey, because Yvette shared my post, I just got 1,000 new followers. Or hey, because Matt shared my post, I just got 500 new followers. I did a video, I did a post with millennial farmer Zach Johnson. He's got like 1 million subscribers on YouTube alone. And he did an Instagram post with me, and I got 5,000 new followers overnight. So collaboration is everything. So work with others, communicate, collaborate, and that will ultimately take you to the next level. And that's what brings your face first and front of mind and front of center for a lot of people, is the ability to show up in those algorithms, and also, you know, show up at events. If there's a big trade show going on in your area, you should make an appearance. You should have your presence be known. Show up in that branded shirt, that branded hat. Say, hey, here I'm here. And so have people learn and connect with you is really
Yeah.
important.
I think that transcends every industry that I'm aware of today is that when you've got a competitive, you're kind of feeling like it's you against everyone, you get very isolated. When you feel
Uh-huh.
like I can give and someone else can give to me and it doesn't diminish or, cause me to have less opportunity, but actually get more opportunity. I think that's like an amazing lesson for everybody out there, regardless of your business.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Well, I'm so excited for everything that you've got going on. It's been so great to just know you over the last couple of years because it's really fun to know someone personally and watch the stories because it just takes on such a different flavor when you're like, "Oh, Michelle's at Snake River. I'm going to Snake River," or Michelle's here. I'm
Yeah.
going to be there. It's like it's so fun to have that personal connection with you, and I've appreciated it so much. But
Yes.
we kind of have come to that part of the podcast that I personally really look forward to, which is trivia time, right? So
Yay, trivia
Oh,
time.
so if this is the first time you're listening, this is what we do at the end to kind of wrap it up. It's a little bit of fun, is that I've got two trivia questions, and we always put Ron against our guest, and I'm keeping an unofficial scorecard, and I'll just let you know right now, like Ron's losing. Guests are absolutely winning. I would bet money that it's probably going to maintain going through these two questions. So here we go.
You're
We've got
going down, Raybo.
that's right. That's right. Let it
I think
begin.
I'm
No
going. I
collaboration
think
here.
this is. I told Rena this is just a setup.
It
This is
totally
doesn't
is.
matter how many I get right. I'm still going to be at the bottom.
Totally. 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 Okay, so the first question I have is about influencers. So, how many influencers have over 1 million followers? So, the answers are A, under 10,000, B, between 20 and 40,000, or C, over 40,000 people who have over 1 million followers.
Is that in the US or in the world?
The world.
Ooh, I
In
would
any
say,
industry, correct?
It's social media influencing. So this is just the influencers. How many influencers have over 1 million followers?
do we get to guess? Is there a certain order? I would,
You,
or should I just guess?
yep.
I would say probably worldwide, probably like 20 to 40,000.
Okay. Ron, what do you think?
I'm going to say. I'm going to say A, which was under 10, correct?
Okay. No, B is the correct answer.
Yay!
So worldwide, there are
You're
between
right,
20 and
Michelle.
40, yeah, 20 and 40,000 influencers that have over 1 million followers, which I
Okay.
actually was really shocked because, you always hear about like, the Kylie Jenners of the world or whatever. And you're just like, oh, well, there must be a lot of people. So I was actually kind of surprised. I was like, oh, that's a lot less than what I thought. Um,
Yeah.
okay. So second question. This is Ron, you better get pretty close because this is for you. Okay. The second trivia question we got today is how many acres of corn were planted in the US in 2024?
You're asking a wheat farmer how many acres of corn were planted?
I know you plant corn because you sent me a picture of your very pathetic stand
Oh,
just the other day.
no, that was not my corn. That was someone else's corn. We don't grow corn. I'm not, yeah, I have no idea about corn at all. Boy.
Okay, I'll give you three
You're not doing a
choices.
multiple choice. You gave Michelle a multiple choice,
I'll
and
give
I
you a
just
multiple
get a
choice.
random guess.
Okay, I'll make one real quick for you. So we'll
Yeah.
we'll help you out. Okay.
Uh,
A, under 100 million acres.
how many
B,
acres of corn worldwide
planted in the US.
in the U.S.? Okay.
Yep. So under 100 million acres or over 100 million acres. I'm just going to make it real simple for you. What do you
Yeah,
think?
under.
I would
No,
also
Okay.
guess under.
Okay.
yes, under.
Okay. So it's under, but it's not by very much. In the US in 24, we planted 91 million acres of corn.
Oh, look at that. I
Uh,
learned something new today.
I did too because I would not have guessed that it was nearly that much.
Well,
Michelle, what?
Yeah.
and And it's
That's
actually
a
a decrease from 23. In 23, there was actually 94 million acres of corn that were planted.
Okay, so I'm just going to do the math here real quick.
Oh, we lost your sound, Michelle. We lost your sound.
Oh, sorry. I think my AirPods just.
Oh, there we got
Can
you.
you hear me?
Yep, we
Okay.
got you.
Hopefully the sound is still good since I think my AirPods just died. Okay. So let's say 91 million acres times, let's say on a conservative level, $300 a bag for acres. That is
A number we don't even know how to say because it's so big.
$27.3 billion in seed corn sales. Ooh. Okay. I was just curious. That's a lot of seed money.
There's a lot of seed. Yep, that's a lot of seed. And
Yep.
all that to say, though, Ron, you didn't move the needle a bit because Michelle tied with you. So sorry, you have not improved your standing, even with your two right answers.
I don't come into these podcasts hopeful that I'm going to move the needle very much on the trivia side of things, and so that's all right. But Michelle, I will say that it's always a bright spot to see you and to see everything that you're doing. And I'm really sorry that I missed you when you were just like next door a couple of weeks ago. But we'll make it work next time.
Yeah, no,
we'll
always great to see you. Always great to see you as well. And look forward to connecting. And hey, you and I are always great at collaborating. It's kind of like I was talking about earlier when it comes to building a business, it's starting social media and then it grows into all these different things. It all depends on relationships. And I always appreciate seeing you and working with you on different projects as well. So thanks.
Yeah, it's
you introduced me to Rita.
It's been fun.
Yes, always fun.
Yes.
Well, Michelle, we appreciate you so much.
You too. Thank you guys so much.
Yeah, we appreciate you. We will be cheering you on and liking those posts, and and we'll be looking forward to maybe catching up with you in 25, and we can do a recap of Farm Cruise and
that would
next
be amazing
in that exciting realm for you.
Hopefully, we'll get some people in your community to come on the Farm Cruise as well.
Oh, I have no doubt that there has already been some Googling that's been done to see what that's all about. I have no doubt. No doubt.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle.
Take
care. See you soon.
Yep. You too. Thanks. Bye.
You've been listening to the Ag Inspo podcast with Ron Rabo and Rena Striegel. Find Ag Inspo on Farm Journal's YouTube channel and anywhere you find your favorite podcasts. For more information about today's guest or the resources referenced today, please see the show notes listed below. Join us next time when we will meet another inspirational leader who has taken those small steps to bring about really big change.